Hi and welcome to my first session on the Patreon. So the first session is gonna include some basic mobility and flexibility, super useful especially if you're sitting a lot and if you wanna open your shoulders, your upper thoracic spine and hips, okay? So make sure you have some space to move, it doesn't need to be a lot. Make sure you're barefoot, make sure to have something comfortable so you can move in. In regards to equipment, fairly minimal, so you can use the resistance band, but it can also be a stick for shoulder dislocates, which I'm going to explain how they're going to work. You can use yoga strap, yoga belt, and for split squats that we're going to do later, some elevation, just so we can prioritize range of motion and our hips going lower, okay? So we're going to start with a brief warm-up. You'll see how usually I tend to start every one of my sessions. So it's going to include a little bit of body scanning while you're standing still. And then we're gradually going to start moving more and more, okay? So take your time. Please try to turn off any distractions that you might have. Ideally without any music, okay? So first thing first, you're gonna stand still, find yourself in this nice and comfortable position, standing upright. Soften your knees, feet hip width apart. Relax your shoulders, relax your belly, and then just close your eyes. So before we jump into sets and reps, it's always good to bring some awareness into our bodies, into the way we stand, the way we breathe. Allow yourself to slow down, especially if you had a crazy week, crazy day. Bring awareness inside. Notice your breath. Start scanning your body all the way down from the top of your head. Notice any excessive tension that you might have in certain areas. So first thing, try to relax your jaw without opening your mouth. Try to relax your shoulders while keeping your head upright. Notice any excessive tension in your belly. Try to relax your belly as much as you can. Soften your knees even more. Notice how much effort are you using in order to stay in this position. Try to find the least amount of effort, if possible, to stay upright in this position. Notice a feeling of weight in between your feet and the floor. And now in your own time, you're going to do 3 times deep long inhalation in through your nose. And let it go. And again. One more time. And slowly open your eyes, come back into the room. Let us begin. Okay, so we're going to start with our shoulders. Slowly start rotating your shoulders, especially your shoulder blades backwards. Okay? Keeping your arms completely relaxed. Throughout the class, make sure, especially when it gets tough, try to always breathe in through your nose. Out, either through your mouth or through your nose, but try to have that ease of breath as much as you can. Keep going. come to a stop. Next one, which is gonna reveal any potential disconnect between your shoulders, your upper body, and your pelvis and your legs. Okay, so you're gonna start with these gentle bounces in your knee. Each bounce, as you push into the floor with your feet, you're gonna have one arm swing. Okay, so completely relax your arms as you go forwards and backwards. So each bounce, one arm swing. Okay, so take it easy, find your rhythm. Shoulders, elbows, fingers completely relaxed. If you're doing this correctly, you might even notice a bit of tingling sensation in your fingertips. You decide, depending on your energy, you want to go slower or you want to go faster. Keep going. Really try to find that rhythm. Same thing, you're going to transition into one arm forwards, one arm backwards. So now you're adding a little bit of rotation in the chest. Still continue with the bounce to your knees. One arm forward, one arm backwards. Try to have the sensation, have the intention of doing it as effortlessly as possible. Think about being as light as feather. And gradually fade out. Excellent. Next one, make sure you have some space around yourself, as it's going to include a little bit of arm swing. So feet perhaps slightly wider, soft knees. Keep your heels on the floor as you do this. So you're going to start rotating from one side to other side, each time looking behind yourself. And if you're doing this correctly, and if your arms are completely loose and relaxed, each time as you turn and lead with your head and your chest, your arms are simply going to follow. Feet nice and grounded on the floor. And again, depending on your energy, you can go either slower, small range, or wider and faster. Up to you. Arms completely relaxed again. And gradually fade out. Nice one. Now, feet even wider apart. You don't need to go into side splits, don't worry. Slightly wider apart into straddle. Bend your knees even more. Go slightly lower with your hips. So place your hands on your pelvis. Think about keeping your lower back neutral or maybe even slightly arched as you're going to turn with your chest towards one side. And you're going to do as big circle as possible coming up from the other side and then arching as you're squeezing your bum a little bit in this top position. So for now, stick to one direction. Let's go. Might be a little dizzying if you're doing it faster, so take your time. Prioritize this range of motion, drawing as big circle as possible with your chest. Change direction. Nice and stable. Let's do one more. And come to a stop. Lovely. Bring your feet hip width apart as we're going to roll our spine down into the squat. We're going to have a mini sequence, okay? So I'm going to go slightly on the side so you can see what we're going to do. So you're going to tuck your chin to the chest, and then you're going to start rolling your spine as you're squeezing, engaging your abs segment by segment, going all the way down. At some point, you're going to start bending your knees, and then at some point, you're going to lift your heels off the floor, knees going forward, and in this position, you're going to open your chest, Go wide with your arms, thumbs facing on the sides, squeeze your shoulder blades for a second or two, and then you're gonna roll your spine up. Hips up, bend your knees, roll your spine all the way up, connect it to your breath, and again, you can lead with your arms, roll your spine down into the squat, knees forward, open your chest, arms on the side, squeeze your shoulder blades, stay there for a second, reverse. Let's go, continue. Keep going. I'm gonna do one last motion and then we're gonna finish in this squat position. Nice one. Okay, so here, make sure you have some space on the sides as you're gonna place your hands in front of your right knee. Left leg is gonna be extended. And right now, you're just gonna start going from side to side, helping yourself with your hands as much as you need to, okay? Don't worry about the heels lifting off the floor. As you maybe can hear, I have very clicky knees. Always remember, any grinding, any clickiness in the joints is perfectly normal, as long as you don't have any pain or excessive discomfort as you do that, okay? This feels okay. You can start giving yourself less and less pressure through your fingers as you go from side to side. One more time each side. Nicely done. Next one, you're gonna go in deep lunge, okay? So think about hips going as low as you can. So left leg, just so everyone is on the same page, left leg is gonna be in front, right hand on the side, right leg behind. You're gonna go with your hips as low as you can. And then here, just start playing with this left knee, going forward, one side, maybe in, maybe straightening that knee as well. See how it goes. Let's just spend some time here while drawing simultaneously right hip down towards the floor, okay? As it's gonna lead nicely into what we're gonna do later on. You can maybe place both hands on the floor. See how it feels. Just wiggle yourself around a little bit. Lovely. Let's switch. Same thing, other side. Take your time. Notice any differences between sides. That's perfectly normal. We all are a little bit imbalanced and perfectly fine. And again, as long as it doesn't cause you any issues. Again, if you wish to place both hands on the floor, be free to do so. Nice. Lovely. And the last one, we're going to sit in this lovely position called seiza. So think about toes being straight, not like this, straight. Shins together. You're going to sit on your heels slowly. If you need to help yourself with your hands a bit more, that's fine. Especially if you're not used to this, if you know you have tight ankles, it might be a little bit uncomfortable, okay? So you're just gonna either sit here, or if this feels fairly okay, you can gently start sort of leaning backwards and forwards. Obviously, as you lean back, you're gonna have a little bit more stretch on your quads and the front of your ankles. Forgot to mention, but if you have solid floor, if you have a mat or something a bit softer, it might be probably more comfortable, especially if you're bony as me. A few times. Last one. Beautiful. And we're gonna finish this sort of warm-up intro part. We're just going with our hands underneath our shoulders, feet are further back from our hips, knees underneath our hips approximately. And what you're gonna do here, while pushing to the base of your hand and to your shoulders, you're just gonna lift your hips up as high as you can. And you're just gonna stay here in this position for a few moments. Nothing too crazy. You can start twisting your pelvis from side to side. Think about as you're on your toes, pivoting from side to side, maybe straightening one knee as you're flexing the other one. Whatever feels nice as you're putting a little bit more pressure on the shoulders and your wrists. If you wish to shift your weight forward a little bit, you can. Just don't forget to push to your shoulders. Whatever feels nice here. And gradually push your way back into the squat. And from the squat, hips up, roll your spine all the way back. Let us begin. Okay, so we're gonna begin with our mini superset, which is gonna be for 2 rounds. Superset meaning combination of 2 exercises, okay? So first one is gonna be fairly simple, and we're gonna do it for 30 seconds each direction, okay? So I brought myself a timer here. So you're gonna start in this kneeling position as your hands are underneath your shoulders, knees underneath your hips, okay? What you're gonna do here, think about basic cat-cow transition or position or motion, whatever you want to define it from yoga. So think about excessive arching and then excessive rounding, okay? So we're gonna combine that with this nice side twist or expanding of the rib cage on one side, okay? The limitation here is going to be that you want to keep your elbows straight, okay? So think about if you have central axis from your head going through your spine all the way towards your tailbone. So think about this, you're going to pick a direction, you're going to round up, you're going to turn towards one side, go into arch, go to the other side. And we're going to do this nice and smooth motion as far as you can go in each direction for 30 seconds each. Just one tip. Think about neck. So your head is not going to be static in this position. So as you're going with spine in one side, your head is always going to sort of counter going on the other side, okay? So let us begin. 30 seconds one direction. Prepare. Let's go. So as always, when you start, it might feel a little bit more stiff. That's fine. Then gradually try to increase the range of motion if it feels okay. As always, in through your nose. Start going further and further. Change direction. Other side, same thing, same rules, same cues. Should feel really nice. Keep going, 6 more seconds. And come to a stop. And don't worry, we're gonna come back to this. What you're gonna do next, you're gonna go in this position on your belly, okay? So feet are gonna be on the floor. Think about your belly staying on the floor. So at some point you probably did sort of arching drill here or any Superman drill variation, let's call it like that. But what we're going to try to focus today is try to lock your lower back to stay in this sort of position as you want to focus more on your upper thoracic spine. So it's very easy for people who are super comfortable and flexible lower back to just arch in their lower back. Nothing wrong with that. But let's try to focus more on the upper back. Okay, so if anything, try to do this. Roll your pelvis or your tailbone back, posterior pelvic tilt. So create this gap in between the belly button and the floor. Okay, squeeze your glutes. For some of you that might be a little bit more difficult to sort of be aware of if you're just starting with this, but that's the intention. Or at least if this is too complicated, think about keeping your belly on the floor and lifting your chest only off the floor. Okay, so thumbs are going to be up, arms are going to be straight throughout. So it's going to look something like this. Thumbs up, head up, arms on the side, drawing my shoulders not up, down, squeezing my shoulder blades, looking slightly in front of me, going all the way back, placing my head on the floor, okay? So each rep is going to look like this. Keep your feet on the floor, okay? So in this top position, really search for that contraction, squeezing the shoulder blades together. Prepare. You're gonna do this for 40 seconds. Time goes now. Let's go. So keeping your belly on the floor, lifting your chest only off the floor, each time resetting, lowering our forehead back on the floor. So you don't want to stay constantly up in the air, just not to create too much tension on your neck. Thumbs constantly facing up to facilitate that nice external rotation of the shoulder. Keep going. Let's do one more. And come to a stop. I'm gonna give you a little bit of rest for a few moments. Have a sip of water if you wish. 30 seconds to 1 minute, and then we're gonna go back to do one more round of this. Okay, so as you finish with your rest, we're gonna continue on to the round number 2. So we're going into our kneeling position. So again, let's try to increase it 40 seconds each direction, rotations in this, the spine in this kneeling position. Prepare, going in 3, 2, 1, time goes now. Keeping the elbows straight, now try to go a little bit further. Keep going in through your nose. You can play with tempo, you can go slower, you can go faster. Whatever feels right. And change direction. Same thing, other side. Let's go. Really drive, especially that mid part of your back, of your spine, as far as you can in each direction. 15 more seconds. And come to a stop. Nicely done. Straight away, let's go onto the belly in our arching Supermans with arms being straight. Okay, prepare. 40 seconds. Time goes now. Let's go. So thumbs up. Chest off the floor, belly on the floor. You get extra points if you can pause in this top position for a second or two. Keeping the lower back engaged as well. Keeping your glutes engaged. Looking slightly in front of you. 15 more seconds. The last one. Come to a stop. Nicely done. After this, have a sip of water again, shake your arms a little bit, and we're gonna continue. So in our next part, we're gonna focus a little bit, we're gonna have a superset of 3 exercises, which are gonna start to be a little bit more demanding, especially if you have lots of tightness around the shoulders, tightness in your chest, maybe even your hips, front of the hips, okay? So for this one, you're gonna need a resistance band or a belt or something that you can go with your arms as wide as you can or as close as you can, depending on your flexibility, okay? But before we go into that, we're gonna do a little bit of thoracic upper spine rotation, okay? As it has a nice carryover to opening, especially for the bridge, and improving posture and so on, and also improving your shoulder flexion, especially if you're doing some handstands as well, okay? So what we're gonna do fairly basic position. So kneeling in this position, you can go tuck your toes on, in. So you're gonna go with your left arm as far as you can forward, okay? Right arm is gonna go as far as possible to the left side, underneath your left arm. Your right shoulder is on the floor, your head is on the floor. So this already might give you a nice stretch. What you're gonna do now, with your left arm to mimic your right one, and then you're gonna try to reach as far as you can on the opposite side with your left arm, either here or flex your elbow. Okay, so this is how it's gonna look like. You're either gonna hold this position for 30 seconds, or you can gently reach as far as you can for 5 to 6 seconds, then reset and reach again. Okay? Important thing is, at any point when you're doing some stretching, always keep your breathing nice and relaxed. Okay? Remember, you want to convince your central nervous system is okay to go in that range, in that position. Okay? Don't hold your breath, don't push. Okay? So we're gonna stay approximately 30 seconds in each position. So prepare. Let's go into first one. So left arm forward, right arm through, and then you're gonna lift your arm and you're gonna go into stretch. Going in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So search for that rotation in your upper spine. Static hold for 30 seconds, or every once in a while resetting and going a little bit further. Be free to play with this position of the arm, either flexed, either straight. Let's do one more. Nice. Let's change. Same thing other side. Prepare. Let's go. So right arm forward, left arm through. Left shoulder on the floor, head on the floor. Let's go into rotation. You can tuck your toes, you can keep them straight, whatever feels more comfortable. Let's do one more. And come to a stop. Nicely done. We're gonna revisit this one more time. So now you're gonna grab resistance band or a belt, maybe even a stick, a broomstick, if you have decent shoulder flexibility. So the goal here, I'm gonna demonstrate this in kneeling position. You can also do it in standing, seated, or whatever. Ribs in. Okay, so don't flare your ribs out. So this is just gonna indicate as you start going up and over with your shoulders, with your arms, lack of flexibility, and your body is being intelligent and is trying to compensate for the lack of that with arch in your lower back. So have your ribs in, tailbone in, abs engaged, sort of, okay? So the wider you go with your hands here, the easier this is gonna be. The closer you are, the tougher it's gonna be. What you wanna have is this. Arms straight as you're going up, and then as far back as possible, squeezing your shoulder blades and going as low as you can and going back. Try not to elevate your shoulders up, so shoulders towards the ears. So keep your shoulders nice and packed down, nice and stable, okay? Depressed shoulders, okay? So elbows straight as you do this. What you don't want to have is this. If you, for example, lack shoulder flexibility and you start doing these sudden skipping motions, elbows being flexed, you don't want to have that. If placing your hands is super hard, place them a little bit further on the outside. Just make sure it's not too easy and you just do this. Okay, so this is not really doing much. Think about having your ribs in and going with your arms as far back as possible. Okay, so let's do this for 40 seconds. Prepare. Time goes now. I always like to say, first set is always testing the waters, and then each consecutive sets, you can push yourself a bit harder. And each consecutive set, I'm going to talk much less, as you know what you need to do. This is excellent anti-sitting drill as well. For those of you who are sitting a lot in front of the computer, 12 more seconds. Keep the full control, ease of breath. And the last one. And come to a stop. Now we're going to try to combine that, the same sort of principle, but with loading our shoulders and our wrists. So you're going to be in this seated position. So think about hips in between your feet and your hands. So your fingers pointing behind. Think about main cues. Rolling your shoulders back. Rolling your shoulders back, squeezing your shoulder blades. Again, fingers pointing behind because of external rotation of the shoulder. So rolling your shoulders back, squeezing your shoulder blades, opening your chest. As you lift your hips up, squeezing your glutes, come down. And we're going to repeat that for reps, for time, without losing intention of the shoulders. So don't roll your shoulders forward, okay? So keep your chest nice and open. Okay, it might indicate if you feel some tightness in your chest, that's fine, especially if you're sitting a lot, or maybe your hips are a bit tight and you're not going to be able to go up too much, okay? So be mindful of that. Hands are always underneath shoulders. Prepare. That's enough of me talking. Going in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Squeeze your shoulder blades, open your chest, hips up, squeeze your glutes. Keep going. In regards to your head, you don't need to hyperextend your neck and look up. Tuck your chin, look slightly in front of you. Keep going. Fifteen more seconds. You can notice in your triceps as well. They're working hard, back of your shoulder, upper back. And the last one. And come to a stop. Shake your arms. I feel a little bit intense on the wrists, so you can shake your wrists as well. Okay, so have a rest, 30 to 60 seconds, have a sip of water, and then we're gonna repeat this again. Okay, so second round, we're gonna start with our rotations, then dislocates, then this reverse plank lifts, okay? So now you know what you need to do. We're gonna go straight into the work. By the way, when I say to have some rest, be free to pause the video if you need a little bit longer rest, okay? Prepare, starting with these kneeling rotations, left arm forward, right arm threaded through. Going in 3, 2, 1, let's go. So now we're gonna hold a little bit longer, maybe 40 seconds. See if you can go a little bit further into the stretch. I like to place my hand behind my back, behind my lower back. With each exhale, try to go a bit deeper. One more. And change. Same thing, other side. Going in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. In through nose, out gently, exhale, and go deeper into the stretch. You should feel this sort of in the middle of your back, maybe beneath your shoulder. And the last one. Nice one. Also had a nice click. Any clicking, it's not necessarily good or bad, it's just there. Don't worry too much about that. Usually people feel a little bit lighter when you hear some click. Okay, so let's go into our dislocates. So now, if first round was okay, if you want to push yourself a little bit harder and you want to make this harder, place your hands a little bit closer, okay? But be mindful to do the motion correctly. Prepare. 40 seconds, time goes now. Let's go. Keeping your ribs in, keeping your head constantly in the same position. Try not to move your head to compensate forwards or backwards. Fifteen more seconds. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's finish. Straight away we're gonna go into reverse plank. So seated in this position, fingers pointing behind, squeeze your shoulder blades, roll your shoulders back, open your chest, prepare. Going in 3, 2, 1, let's go. 40 seconds. Squeezing your glutes as you're lifting your hips up, keeping nice engagement in your upper back, chest nice and open. 20 more seconds. And the last one. Count to stop, shake your arms. If you want to do one more round, be free to do one more round. So I'm only going to do 2 sets of this as the previous superset. If you wish to do one more, be free to do so, okay? Just remember, we still have some other work to do, okay? So be free to rest 30 seconds or 60 seconds, and then we're going to move on. Okay, so next drill is going to involve nice spinal segmentation as we go from this position, facing the floor, almost like a squat, into rounding the hips up, rounding of the spine, or spinal flexion. This into spinal extension, which is arching. So it's going to look something like this. If you're in this kneeling position, knees are going to be on the sides. You want to keep your feet in the same position, and you want to sort of try to find optimal position for your hands when you start doing the transitions, so you don't need to kind of move your hands during the motion, okay? So it's going to look like this. So lift your hips up, tuck your chin to the chest, go on your toes as you round your upper back, mid back, lower back, engaging your abs, rounding, rounding, rounding as you're lowering your hips, keeping your arms straight and your elbows. As your hips go down, squeezing your glutes, and now opening your chest, lifting your head up as much as comfortable, and then reverse, tuck your chin to the chest, go all the way back as you push to your arms. One more time, on your toes, rounding on the spine, segment by segment, keeping your chin tucked into your chest. Only then in this last possible moment, lift your head up. You really want to make sure you keep in this bottom position. Don't do this with your shoulders. So you don't want to put too much pressure on your neck. Keep your shoulders nice and active or depressed, okay? And also hips or glutes in the bottom position, keep them nice and squeezed. So let's see how it goes. Let's try to make it nice and smooth, like a wave, okay? Prepare. Going in 3, 2, 1. Time goes now. If you're doing this for the first time, it might take you some trial and error, which is completely fine. It should feel quite nice. Make it nice and smooth. Always hips going back as close as possible towards your heels. So rounding and then arching and then reversing. Connect it to your breath. 20 more seconds. And let's do one more. Nicely done. Hopefully that felt nice, which is nothing more than sort of variation of spinal rolling motion when we were going down with our spine at the beginning of the session, if you remember. So next one is going to be fairly basic. Think about crawling pattern, opposite arm, opposite leg, similar to the way we walk, opposite arm, opposite leg. So try to think too much. We want to make this as relaxing as possible, but simultaneously stretching our hamstrings as well. So think about being in this high bear position as you, with keeping your hips up high, moving through space, opposite arm, opposite leg, going sideways, maybe going backwards, depending on the size of your space, as you're pushing to the bases of your hand. So you're going to do this approximately for 1 minute. Take your time, okay? So try not to use too much effort. Let's give it a go. Time goes now. So hips up, depending on your hamstring flexibility, your feet are going to be closer or further off your hands. Head nicely and gently hanging in between your shoulders. If you get stuck, don't worry. Try not to think too much about which arm, which leg goes. Ideally, it's going to be opposite arm, opposite leg, but it doesn't matter if you sort of get confused a little bit. You'll get it eventually. Again, you can play with tempo. If you wish to pause for a little bit in one position, you can. Twisting your pelvis, twisting your spine. 15 more seconds. You can make it a little bit more playful if you wish. 3, 2, 1, and come to a stop. Nicely done. Shake your wrists, shake your arms, as this one was probably a little bit more on the heavy on the shoulders and your wrists, okay? So again, give yourself after 1 minute, maybe even more if you wish. Okay, so hope you had a nice rest. We're gonna continue with the second round of this superset. So wave unload, so spinal segmentation, spinal flexion into spinal extension, and then after that, a little bit of crawling. And again, we're gonna do only 2 rounds of this session. If you wish to include a third round, be free to do so if you have time. I always want to do this as sort of as more time efficient as possible, with still having some results. Okay, so let's go into the position for the first drill. So remember, I don't know if you saw from that angle, your knees are going to be slightly on the side, okay? As you sort of like a frog reaching in this position. Prepare, 1 minute, going in 3, 2, 1, let's go. So try to find it a bit smoother if you can now. Can add some speed if you're getting more comfortable with this. Just remember, hips up, straighten your legs, on your toes, on your shoulders, forward, round your spine, and at some point as your hips starting to go down, start arching your spine. 2 more. The last one. Every time as you're driving your hips down or in center position, squeeze your glutes. Nicely done. Let's go into our crawling straight away. So hips up. If your hamstrings are super inflexible, you need to go a bit further, be free to bend your knees a little bit more, okay? Nothing wrong with that. Prepare. Going in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. 1 minute. And again, if you wish, add some flavor to it. A little bit of rotation, going sideways. Maybe mini hop. $15 more seconds before we move on. And slowly come to a stop. Awesome work. Have some rest and then we're gonna move on. Okay, hope you had a good rest. This last part, we're gonna combine a little bit of hip mobility work with some lower body strength, okay? So first one is gonna be fairly basic, but very lovely sequence that I like to perform. A little bit of hip flow on the floor. So if you can sit on this position, that's fine. If you struggle and your hips are stiff, you're probably gonna notice you need to lean back. You can also bend your knees a little bit, that's fine. You can also support yourself with your hands as much as you need to, okay? So any of these motions on the floor, especially if you lack hip flexor strength and flexibility, make sure, lower back flexibility, make sure to help yourself with your hands. So the sequence is gonna be like this. So if this is your starting position, while keeping your chest upright, you're gonna try to simply shift your feet towards one side, your knees towards one side, okay? Back, other side, okay? So that's the step number 1. If you need to help yourself with your hands, be free to do so. As step number 2, as you shift towards one side, you're creating this nice 90-degree shin box position. You're gonna try to lift your hips up into extension, squeezing your glutes. Again, helping yourself with your hands or not. Shifting back to first position, other side, same thing. Drive your hips up and forward, squeeze your glutes. Sit down, straddle, this position, okay? So that's gonna be our exercise number 1. We're gonna do this for approximately 40 seconds from side to side. Exercise number 2, and sort of the strength / flexibility drill for the lower body. One of my favorites, split squats. I would strongly encourage you, even if you're fairly decent with split squats and you have good ankle mobility, hip and knee mobility, you can all use elevation. So a couple of yoga blocks, or maybe even chair or coffee stool or step, something you can place your front leg, front foot on. Why? Just to prioritize hips going deeper, to have more range of motion. So how this is gonna look like, let's say I'm placing my right leg forward, my back leg is not too close because this is gonna happen, I can't go too far, okay? So go as far back as possible with your back foot. As you go down, think about lowering down and forward, driving your hips, think about same glutes. If my right leg is forward, I wanna sit on my right heel, okay? While keeping my heel on the floor. This is on the elevation. This is why elevation is gonna help. Otherwise, I might have to lift my heel off the floor. So keeping your chest upright, but also trying not to arch here. So maybe slight lean forward. Back leg is straight, but if you need to bend your knee a little bit, that's fine. Okay, so we're gonna do this for one side first. Up, this is a good tempo. Hips nice and square. And then after a certain amount of time, other side. So let us begin first with our hip flow on the floor, okay? Prepare. In 3, 2, 1. Seated position, shift, nice and smooth, hips up, squeeze your glutes. Sit down, straddle, Other side, hips up, squeeze your bum, sit down. If you start noticing you moving a little bit through space, that's perfectly fine. Sit down. Ten more seconds. Last one. Nicely done. Let's go into our split squats. So make sure this is not sliding, make sure it's nice and stable. 40 seconds each leg. I would say choose your first weaker leg first. Prepare. Let's go. So place your feet, nice and stable. So you're trying to close the structures. So hamstrings touching the calves and shin going as far as possible over the top of your foot. Knee going past the toes. Perfectly normal. Pause for a second. Push up. Hips nice and square. Down. Pause for a second. Push up. Hands on the hips. If you struggle with the balance, they can be on the side. 15 more seconds. Inhale on your way down. Exhale as you push back. 2 more reps. Nicely done. You have 5 seconds to change. Going in 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's go. Notice any differences between sides. Again, perfectly normal to have some imbalances. No matter what some experts are saying, like Kairos or osteopath. Keep going. Really try to go as low as you can. Feel that compression on this leg, feel that extension on this hip. 10 more seconds. And come to a stop. Nicely done. Shake your legs after this one, walk it off a little bit. You're not gonna rest for too long. Give yourself 20 to 30 seconds. Active rest can sort of be this hip flow on the floor. Okay, so let's start with one more round or hip flow on the floor. So seated here, if for example first round you kind of struggle to stay in this position, this second round you kind of feel I can kind of pull myself with my heels, digging the heels into the floor and reaching a bit forward for a second or two, you can do that as well. Prepare. Going in 3, 2, 1, let's go. So shift, hips up, squeeze your glutes. If you want to stay in each position for a bit, you can. But here, shift, lift up, drive your hips into extension. This is sort of a basic pattern. There are also many ways that we can play with this on some other occasion. So one more time on the side. And come to a stop. Let's go into our split squats. So find yourself upright. Find your elevation. Choose your first leg. Prepare. Going in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. So really drive that knee forward, as long as your knee feels comfortable with this. If you struggle, keep going. If you struggle with the balance, just make sure your feet are slightly more diagonal rather than just one behind another. And again, you can always have your arms on the sides to help you with the balance. If you wobble too much, that means you definitely need to change certain parameters to make it a bit easier. 6 more seconds. Nicely done. 5 seconds to change. We're in 3, 2, 1. Let's go. In regards to your knee, try not to allow the knee to cave in or collapse too much in. Completely normal if it does a little bit, but try to follow the line of your big toe. Knee following the line approximately of your big toe. 10 more seconds. The last one. And come to stop. Shake your legs. If you wish, be free to repeat this last superset of hip flow on the floor and split squats. If not, this is also more than enough work. Okay, so we're gonna finish all this section with a little bit of my favorite thing at the end of any physical training. If it's floor work, handstands, strength, body strength work, flexibility work, is getting rid of all that tension that we were creating with a bit of shaking. So we're going to put a timer for 2 minutes only. You have two options. So think about standing in a comfortable position, bouncing with your heels on the floor, okay, from your knees. So creating the impulse as you push into the floor, and sort of ripple effects travels upwards, affecting your upper body. Or with your heels bouncing off the floor, okay? More from your ankles. A couple of options. You can go from side to side. You can even roll your spine forward a little bit. You can go from side to side like this. You can throw your arms a little bit. There are many options. You can even go in the forward fold. What we're going to try to do also, we're going to combine this with deep long inhalation in through your nose and long exhalations out through your mouth. Okay, so prepare. Going into your desired shaking pattern, and let's go. If you wish to close your eyes, you can also do that, especially if you're with other people, if you're a bit self-conscious. You decide also how fast you want to go. Maybe you want to keep it very gentle. Maybe you really want to go fast. Up to you. One more minute. So we're all quite good with creating tension, but try to really get soft, release that as much as you can, even if it's just a gentle shake. Always a good idea to have a nice reset for your system. 30 more seconds. And then gradually, don't just come to a stop suddenly. Gradually start fading out. Keep your eyes closed if you can, until you completely, gently come to a stop. Allow yourself a few moments in this still position. And try to revisit that sensation or the way you felt at the beginning of the session. Notice your heartbeat now. Notice your energy levels. Notice your posture. How good it feels. or maybe it still feels the same. There's no right or wrong. And what we're gonna do for one more time, you're gonna do one deep long inhalation in through your nose and let it go. Open your eyes, come back into the room. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me on this first mobility, flexibility, strength session on this Patreon. There's plenty of those to come, together with some tutorials and so on. Okay? If you have any questions, please be free to send me a message. You can also join our chat. Any questions you can also ask in the chat. Hopefully we're gonna make this community growing, and my desire is to definitely help you to become more mobile and strong, so you can enjoy your everyday life. Thank you so much. Take care and see you soon.